throwing fits, ripping shit, tearing it, imperative. Then I'm killing this mic no matter where I live. These derelict rappers acting the fool, this embarrassing, this flagrant. That's the nature of this entertainment, and we can't even change it. Guilty before arraignment, now the system tainted. But when we speak, they all laugh at us. And y'all wonder why I'm lacking trust. Trying to fight a giant with attorneys that can back them up. That's church versus science, both sides start acting up. I'm late on my assignment, hopping up a mile high, climbing, obviously never silent. New alignment, I'm defiant, cannot describe it. Used to describe it as a young graffiti artist. Before the beard, I always got carded. At every bar, even though my bar has been the hardest. The scars on my face, and I ain't always been the smartest. But I'll show you where my heart is. I said I'll show you where my heart is. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. I can show you where my...
The type of guy that would ride with the breeze. I'm higher than most people. I'm cold and icicle freeze. I'm liking to Mike Tyson. I'm a bison, a beast. I'm high like Jamaica, like right by the beach. My pops is from a spot where they're fighting for peace. 8 years old, out there watching people fight in the streets. All these sirens only make the violence increase. Yeah, we're still not loving police. It's that bright young American, nice, dumb, arrogant. Tight on a mic, but he might need a therapist. Heart full of kerosene, head full of fairy tales. Said that you're my homie, you don't know me, but I know you very well. Roll back on some West Coast shit. This whole track is wetter than your dress code kiss. About to hit the track, running on some retro fit. I guess I'll lit, I guess I'll bitch, now let's go.
I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody...
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Tuesday. Hanging with the fellas, the sports nonsense and whiskey. Frankie, Robert,
gentlemen.
Cheers, my guys. How we doing?
It's
cheers,
excellent.
boys.
It's a
Let's roll.
Day. It's a beautiful day.
So, those that have been with us for a while, those that might be new, we're changing things up a little bit. We're gonna go to a strict hour and 30-minute timeline for us moving forward, and we're gonna try to stay on point, be a little bit more concise with what we're trying to discuss. And if we run out of a little time, then we run out of a little time. So moving forward, every show we're gonna try to give you a rundown, so you have an idea of exactly where and when we're gonna be talking about things. So if you need to jump and move around, you can come back and know exactly where you need to catch up again. Hour and a half. First 20 minutes, we've got some basketball discussion to go over. NCAA, it's tournament week. Selection Sunday is right around the corner here in about 5 days. And we got a little NBA conversation. 20 minutes. 20 minutes basketball this week. 40 minutes this week. 40 minutes this week, we got NFL free agency. There was a whole lot that happened really quick, just like we said it would. 40 minutes, we're going to burn through it. Last 30-ish, we're going to do our nonsense. So we're always going to start with sports. We're always going to finish with our nonsense now. Robert's got a good topic because I finally saw a movie, so there's something for us to discuss. So it'll be fun. So with that in mind, if you guys have nothing further to say, I'm going to jump right into the basketball. We're going to get rolling.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Here we go.
Hit the algorithm.
Get
Let's
something
go.
to warm your soul with and come hang out with us. So, it is tournament week. There have already been some slots that have been already solidified through their tournament championships. But for the most part, most are going to be settled this week. With that in mind, I was going to kind of run through the major conferences because those are what most people know and follow. You start getting into the Missouri Valley and things of that nature. I don't think as many people are going to be aware of those things. So we'll try to stay a little bit more high level at this moment in time here. Right away, Duke, with their run that they've been on here in the last 2 weeks, they are number one in the country at this moment, and they do have the best player in the country on their team. So that kind of helps place you at the top. Let's keep in mind the kid is 18. It's absurd. 18. And his growth curve isn't like this. It's like this. Like it's like a rocket straight. It's insane just watching him play. So Duke being number one, they're gonna. I don't see anybody challenging them legitimately in the ACC. The ACC is down this year for all intents and purposes. It's not the strongest conference like it usually is in the past. Most years it's been the strongest conference. That's changed quite a bit in recent memory. Big 12 might be the best conference in the nation right now. The Big 10's down as well, I would say, overall. So, you got two major conferences that are not going to be sending the same level of talent top to bottom that they normally would to the tournament. So I think Duke handily, I would say. If they don't, I would be kind of surprised. Wins the ACC. Since I'm talking about the Big 12 and the Big 10, the Big 12 a little bit more open than the Big 10. Like I said, it might be the best conference in the nation right now. Houston's number 2 in the nation. Texas Tech is number 9. Iowa State is 12. Texas A&M is 14.
MSU, baby, 7.
We'll get there. Easy. So looking at that, Houston might have been this preseason projected favorite for a lot of people. They are the highest ranked, but you take those top 4 teams and I could see anybody walking away in the Big 12. Much more open, but at a high level. This isn't wide open because somebody might win. This is somebody's going to go out there and take it. It's just a matter of which team is going to be the best on that day. Come Saturday or Sunday. Each conference is a little bit different. I can't remember which one's finished on Sunday, which one's finished on Saturday. I know there was a point
finish
where
Saturday. Michigan State plays on Friday.
Huh?
Michigan State plays Friday. Big 10 will finish on the Saturday.
The Big 10 conference finishes on Saturday. Okay, so they finished on Saturday. Can't remember if everybody moved to Saturday. I know there was a push for that, so the Selection Sunday was more just Selection Sunday. I'll have to look into that a little bit more and see. But there used to be a couple, I'm sure there still is, that finish on Sunday. The Big 10, Robert just mentioned it, SMU sitting at 7 overall in the nation. It's hard to see.
MSU, not SMU.
MSU? What did I say?
SMU.
Oh, did I really?
Yeah.
Funny.
It's okay.
Southern
I got
Methodist.
you.
Yeah, we're not talking about Southern Methodist. The Pony Express is not going down right now.
Nope.
MSU, my bad. The Spartans, 7 overall. Don't really see anybody pushing them in the Big 10. It is the Big 10, though, so anything can happen. But when you say anything can happen this time of year, you're usually talking about Michigan State being the one that makes anything happen as maybe a lower seed or having an off year. And if they're having a really good year,
they're crushing right now.
Yeah, they're probably not.
Their defense is strong.
We'll see. We'll see. But, I mean, you look at the Big 10 top to bottom. Maryland sitting at 11 is interesting. They could give Michigan State a scare, but
which they just lost to Michigan State 5 days ago.
So yeah, that's pretty much Michigan State's show to steal and go from there.
Go green, baby! Finally,
the second best conference, and there are some saying it's the best conference. I still think it's the Big 12, but that's potato probably at this point. But the SEC is damn good too. And you've got Auburn at 3, Florida at 4, Bama at 5, Tennessee at 8. So you kind of look at that and you're like, oh, okay. Now, again, you look at that and you go, well, based on the last couple of weeks, any of those teams could come out and win it. They're Alabama lost a couple in a row. Auburn lost a couple in a row. Florida's kind of come out of nowhere and wasn't quite expected to be this good, but they've stayed steady and strong and had some big wins against both of those guys. So throw it up in the air and see who comes out. But again, it's not going to be because somebody has to win. It's going to be because somebody goes out there and plays really good basketball. It's just which team does it on which day. So out of the Big Ten and the ACC, there's a couple front runners, and it'd be surprising if they lost. The two other major conferences, though, going over to the SEC and the Big 12, much more open, but in a really good way. You're going to see insanely good basketball the whole tournament at a high level. So from there, who becomes favorites? You know, looking at ESPN, I was looking at their odds. And, I mean, you know, it's kind of the top 10. Really, it's those top 4. It's the Houston, the Duke, the Auburn, Florida, Alabama, those top 5-ish in that area is who people really like. Tennessee's kind of a dark horse sitting just outside. Michigan State, I won't call them a dark horse, but I don't know if people are favoring them quite yet, just because they weren't quite expected to be this good to start the season, and people still see some holes, but they don't want to say anything negatively, and rightfully so, because it's a Tom Izzo-led team going into the tournament. And Tom Izzo-led teams going into the tournament fare very well a majority of the time. So, and they're fun to watch usually, because tournament time rolls around, they're usually playing lockdown D and transition ball where it's run and go. And it is fun to watch. So that plays well for Michigan State, because that's what the SEC teams like to do. That's what the Big 12 teams like to do. But I feel like Duke is kind of the wild card here for a couple reasons. One, they can run up and down the court with anybody. But 2, they can play lockdown defense and then go into a half-court offense. They don't have to run up and down the court when they do that. The question mark, though, is all the freshmen they're playing high minutes with. There's 4 of them, I believe, if I remember correctly, who get it high minutes. One of them is the best player in the country in Cooper Flag.
That's the next topic.
That's that NFL free agency on the last couple of days, man. It's just hard to transition. So with Flag being the best player in the country, but not having been in these types of moments yet, and you look at some of the more senior-laden teams with Auburn and Alabama and Florida in the SEC. You know, the Big 12 teams have a little bit more seniority within them as well within their lineups. Duke's running out 4 freshmen.
So I'm going to throw something out. I think it's gonna make Robert happy.
Let's go. I love when that happens.
I will root for the Spartans
this
year for Robert, because my Jayhawks suck. So
yeah! He can't root for. He's not going to root for an SEC team. He's not going to do that because of his Miami ties.
Thank you, Pinky.
When it comes to basketball, I don't care about
all right, well,
SEC rivalry. Again,
that means a lot coming from a Kansas fan. So Pinky, I appreciate it. I understand what that means. So thank you.
And I hate Duke. I hate North Carolina, but I don't see them on this list at all. So
they probably have to win the ACC to get into the tournament. Kansas may not be much different.
No, they're not. I do think they have at least a couple quality wins that'll get them in the tournament.
They just got knocked out of the top 25 recently, so they're still in that.
But then they finished by
range after everybody gets their automatic bids.
I don't think they've updated, because again, they beat Arizona, who's at 24. I feel like they should leapfrog to 24, in my opinion. But you know, what do I know? But again, they suck.
Kansas may not even be in the tournament. The other conference I wanted to talk about that I would consider the 5th big conference in basketball, because I believe there still is one, and that's the Big East. Now, it doesn't look exactly like the Big East of old, where you really went up and down the coastline from Syracuse to Pitt to I'm drawing blanks all of a sudden. I apologize, but you understand. Like, it's not Georgetown is where I was trying to go with that, down south along the coast. The old Big East, it's a little bit different now. Still got a St. John's, still got a Georgetown. There's still some of them there. But St. John's is the other wild card that I think people need to pay attention to. Rick Pitino has that team in the top 10 with 2 freshmen who are probably going to go 2 and 3 in the NBA draft, right behind Cooper Flag. Ace Bailey Give me 2 seconds and I'll pull it up here.
Yeah,
But
I can't help you there.
St. John's is dangerous with those 2 freshmen and what they have around them. They will go up and down the court all day long on you like a Rick Pitino team will, back and forth. And it's hard if they're making shots. It is hard for people to keep up with that because you start getting defeated, right? Somebody's going up and down the court. They're not trying to play half court offense or anything, and they're making a lot, and you're missing a couple, and you see that score start separating just a little bit. Boy, that can start wearing into teams sometimes. So it's something to be aware of. St. John's is number 6 right now, and it's something that let's pull it up real quick here.
And I'm looking at this. Whenever they update the rankings, I don't know if they do that. KU will be at 24 because Arizona lost and Mississippi State's lost their last 2. They're getting kicked out. KU's going to get back in there. Which, again, it doesn't really matter. They're still going to get knocked out in the tournament. So it's all good. Let's go Sparties.
Let's do it.
Be interesting to see what happens there.
Caleb's going to root for Cooper Flag because that's what he does. But
that's okay. We can have the odd one out. It's fine.
Duke winning is so gross, and he knows it.
I will take one conversion.
Look, if we're going to have to say it out loud again, I'm more than happy to. But how many years have I been talking about this young man?
It's been a little while.
Like 3-ish? Because it's been since he was a junior-ish, somewhere in that time frame in high school. So this isn't like, I mean, I just said I'm a UNC fan. Like, not like I like rooting for Duke, but I've been telling people to pay attention to this kid for a long time, and he happened to choose Duke, which was unfortunate. But I love his game. He's hard not to watch and like. Like, he does everything. Everything. Think about, like, he plays offense like Jokic. Very similarly. He's not worried about scoring. He's just worried about trying to make the right play all the time. And he's almost 7 foot, but he's way more athletic than Jokic. And then on the other side of the court, he can pretty much guard 1 through 5. That's crazy. And to say that person is still, their trajectory is like this, like, damn. Like that, there's few guys in the league you're talking about like that. Like Wemby, Ant might still be on that trajectory. Jason Tatum, possibly, the way some people feel about him. Others do not. You know, Jokic, according to him, this is the best season he's ever had. So maybe his trajectory is still like this. I mean, his game isn't predicated on athleticism necessarily in the normal sense of the word when people think about it. So he's still got, his prime is a little bit longer than most if that's what he chooses to do. But that's why I love Cooper Flag. But going back to St. John's in the Big East, they could be really, really, really good. But there is one team in the Big East that is always kind of there, does well during the tournament, just so happens to be the other school I root for come this time of year, and that's Creighton. Creighton is 1-1 against St. John's this year. First game, they won by 1, like back in December. Low scoring affair. The second one was in January, I believe. End of January. Might have been February, but I think it was January. And Creighton lost by 6 in a high-scoring game. So both were close, 1-1. Even if Creighton doesn't win the Big East, they'll still get into the tournament. They'll end up with a lower seed, but it's a team that can still get hot and play really well in the tournament to make a deeper run. So out of the Big East, those are probably the 2 teams I would pay attention to. Now, Creighton's not going to show ranked, so that could throw some people off. That's fine. But they had maybe a slightly down year. Marquette could be the other one out of the Big East that could possibly do some damage once they get to the tournament. They could possibly make a run at St. John's too. St. John's has some holes, but for the most part, they've been playing insanely good ball, and they play up and down the court all the time. So I could see them making a really deep tournament run as well. So keep an eye on that. The last topic, I want to get your guys' take on this, NBA related. We're not going to talk about the MVP race or standings or anything like that, because we've kind of gone over that. We'll dive into that more. But I think everybody's heard about the LeBron pulling Stephen A aside on the court after the game to have a conversation about leaving his son's name out of Stephen A's mouth. Look, I backed Bronny being drafted. I said I still believe he can be, and I still think if you watch his G League games, the kid's dominating. He's got to get a little bit more confident when he gets to the league and allow that to transition and translate up a little bit. I'm never expecting him to be a superstar, but I still believe he could be a solid 3-and-D type perimeter dude. Middle of the bench, end of the bench kind of guy that can come on and play when you need him to. And that's what I've always said about him. But damn, if that's not the biggest show of nepotism you've ever seen in your life for someone, that basically said, like, yeah, I got him where he is. Nobody's going to talk about it. And that's it. Like, we can't, they're criticizing him as a basketball player. Like, everybody pretty much is always like, great kid. You meet him, fabulous human being, can't play a lick. Like, that's kind of the thingy here. And LeBron, you can't talk about him no more. Dude, he's in the league. He's a professional basketball player. Like, what are we talking about here? That's wild.
Look, my whole problem with this is LeBron's got Stephen A's number. He could call and talk to him and have a conversation. He doesn't have to do it courtside.
They couldn't go get some wine afterwards and a steak. Like,
if you do it courtside,
super classy, pinkies up
in LA, you know someone's got a camera out.
Come on,
like,
yeah,
like that. Like, they're like, oh, LeBron's right here. I'm gonna take video of him. They got him on video. It was evident of exactly what was going on. It was a horrible look for him. It's a good look for Stephen A. Stephen A's getting like publicity for it, right?
I know.
Stephen A was on a podcast today giving LeBron crap about it. Like, all LeBron did was help his numbers. Like, if your son cannot handle the heat, then I'm sorry, man, he shouldn't be in the league.
And does he get more heat than probably a majority of the dudes that are actually in the league? Yeah, but damn, you brought that on yourself by the way. Like, what was that tweet he sent out like 6 months
90
before the
seconds,
draft,
final
where
take.
He goes, Bronny's better than half the dudes in this league right now while I'm watching. Like something along those lines. You're like, dude, like you're setting him up for failure. Like you're not helping his case. You're not doing him any favors by saying those types of things. What are we doing?
Right. It's awful.
And I get wanting to be a father, but he's a professional basketball player. And if he's really going to stand on his own too, like you keep telling everybody he's going to do, you can't be doing Papa Bear on the sideline.
Gotta let it go.
That's like me going into work and being like, hey, I don't care that Pinky Jr. messed up. That's my boy. Don't talk about him. Like, no, I can't. Like, no, that's on him. He's accountable.
We were talking trash about you at work today, so don't worry. What comes around comes around.
What? Who was talking trash about me?
Me and Junior. And
why were you talking with Junior?
Because I saw him at lunch.
Oh, okay.
I talked with him and Michaela too. It was great.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
All right.
So, yeah, LeBron look, you want to increase your legacy, that's going in that negative column on that legacy bracket. And there's a few of the things you have in that column that you don't want to keep adding to.
All right. Awkward silence. NBA take done.
Got to wrap it up.
It's done. Moving on to the NFL. You know what was great is I get a lot of my NFL news because the new Bleacher Report update sucks. And my Bleacher Report does not work the same as it used to. And I hate the update. So now I go to Twitter for my NFL free agency news. And unfortunately, as Monday morning started, Twitter went down. And everybody,
yeah, that's right.
Everybody was losing their shit that Twitter was down, which was amazing. Finally, it did come back up just in time to everything get started. So typically, NFL free agency starts off with a bang. And it's just boom, boom, boom. Money, just everybody's getting money. Like that first day of tampering, legal tampering, is just usually just
It's
people
just
just
open
spending money.
season. Like, what do we like? Let's be honest.
And then this year, everybody was like, "Wait a minute, why am I going to spend all this money for someone else's players when I could just pay a little bit less to the guys I already know and have?" And so a lot of free agency hype got handed all the money got handed down on Sunday, actually, versus Monday. You know, a lot of guys re-signing: Josh Allen, Ronnie Staley, Nick Bolton for the Chiefs, linebacker. Quite a few guys all re-signed. And then we get the DK Metcalf trade. Like, which is uncharacteristic of the Steelers. Would you say that's correct, Caleb? Like, they don't do a lot.
I mean,
they don't
they're
do a
not
lot of
usually
trades
known
like
for
this.
making splashes in that regard.
Because not only did they trade for him, but then they gave him a brand new deal for $150 million.
The Steelers are more what Dallas wants to be. Like, they both draft and try to usually build from within for the most part. Long-standing coaches, not necessarily identical in those ways as far as the quality of the coaches, but they usually have long-tenured coaches. And they both don't usually pay guys outside of their building. They like to pay within and keep developing that talent, which they're usually both very good at. The difference is Pittsburgh pays when you should and lets guys walk when they need to because they don't get family attached to them because they drafted them. Jerry waits until everybody else has been paid and then makes sure his guys are the highest on the market every time, which handicaps his ability to fill out a roster all the way with talent. And then he definitely does not let guys go when he needs to. He usually makes sure they get one more contract. So they don't go about it and win the same way, unfortunately for Dallas fans, but they do have very similar builds when it comes to those situations.
Do you an analytics guy did some deep dive on the best way to build a Super Bowl winning team? And he confirmed what most of us already know: draft and develop, sprinkled in with some free agents. The second best way to do it is to basically add in draft and develop and add in trades is the second best way to do it. And so it's funny to see teams that go back and forth. And we talk about free agency. Normally, you can talk about the team that spent the most money, and a lot of times people say they won free agency. I don't see it that way. A lot of times the teams that spend a lot of money, either A, were desperate and people don't want to go play for them, so they've got to overspend. And then B, they have that money to spend because they don't have anybody talented on their roster to begin with.
Well, they got a lot of holes to fill, so that they're spending the money for a reason, right? Like, yeah. So, you know, Pittsburgh making that move, I think the big question then becomes, one, the biggest question for all of free agency right now: who's going to be their quarterback? I think I've kind of talked about Rodgers for a few weeks now, at least. I thought
they've talked, at least.
Right. We've heard they've talked now. I'm surprised it took this long for that news to even break. But I've talked about that for a little while now, I believe, Pinky, where I thought that was going to be the right place for him.
I think you did.
I liked him and Tomlin. They've always had that kind of mutual respect. They've given some of those little nudges while they're playing against each other at times over the years. So
let's put it this way.
Do they get the quarterback? I guess that's the first one I want to ask you, okay? And then two, do they keep Pickens?
Well, you don't have to pay Pickens this year, so I think you can. And I do think, at least for Aaron Rodgers, Pittsburgh, I think, has some options. But for Aaron Rodgers, it's Pittsburgh or hit the couch, and it's retiring. Because for me, at least the way I see it, going to Cleveland, going to the Giants, going to the Titans, who are the other teams with quarterback openings, doesn't make any sense.
The Giants make sense if that's the only person that's going to give you a contract and you do want to play. So that's why the Giants are still an option. But I really think it's Pittsburgh first, Giants second.
But if you want to leave your career, like the reason why I don't think he's retiring right now is he doesn't want his career to be the last 2 shitty years in New York. And actually, like we've talked about it, if you really break down his tape over the last 6 to 7 weeks of the season, he was pretty damn good.
Yeah,
that defense just couldn't stop anybody.
Absolutely. And I think that's where I go back to, like, you know, it's wild and crazy, but let's go back to the Brett Favre trajectory and how their careers are so similar and mirrored in a lot of ways. If that's kind of how he's feeling too, and he really does feel like his injuries got into a better place, 2 years in Pittsburgh would not be out of the question.
No, best place for him. We talked a little bit previously about the quarterback musical chairs, right? And of course, we waited for the domino to fall. The domino was Sam Darnold.
Well,
we needed to have Sam Darnold figure out where he was going.
I'm wondering. I still think that might have been part of it, but we'll get into this because I want to stay with Pittsburgh for a second and continue that. But little foreshadowing, Justin Fields and what he created as far as dominoes was slightly surprising. I was not ready for or expecting that. So
I was quite taken aback by that myself. I really thought he was going to stay with Pittsburgh. I didn't expect them to give him up.
Well, and I wanted to mention that here with Pittsburgh for that reason, because I think I had said this last year and I backed away from it a little bit. I won't go full bore back on it again, but Tomlin benching him, the more things that are getting talked about now, that might really have been the beginning of the end for Mike Tomlin, because it sounds like everybody else in the building wanted to stick with Justin Fields, players and coaching staff included, and Tomlin was kind of on an island by himself and made the end-all be-all decision.
Now, again, at the end of the day, they were still 10-3 at one point before the wheels came off. So, again, it still looked like a good idea.
I'm not rehashing that part. I'm just trying to report some facts that we've heard since the end of the season.
What I know is what it's been said. Justin Fields wanted the guarantee from the Steelers if he signed back with them. He was the number one. It wasn't a competition. He was the guy.
And Tomlin wouldn't give it to him.
They were not willing to give him that.
No, not them. Again, the reports I've been listening to here, and you never know how accurate these are, but the reports are that Tomlin, and that's their coach, they will let him run the team the way he sees fit. That's how Pittsburgh runs it, and that's why it's such a great organization, right? The owner puts the GM in place. The GM puts the pieces in place for the coach to work with, and the coach gets to make the final decisions. Tomlin apparently has said, I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no. If I feel like there needs to be a quarterback, because that's how Mike Tomlin is, right? That's how he's always been. He's not going to give you a definitive because he's like, something changes and I feel the need, I'm going to move. And I'm not going to sit here and then have to explain or apologize for that. So I just don't say.
And there's only a handful of coaches that have the balls to do that.
For sure.
Right? And I think I do just think Aaron Rodgers is going to end up there. They can't officially do anything until after tomorrow because he'll get cut tomorrow.
Right.
If
he doesn't, I'll be. But the Jets, being the Jets, might try to make it a big deal and sign and trade because you know how they work. They were stupid enough to give the Packers exactly what they wanted.
Nobody's going to allow a sign and trade. They want Rodgers cut, and then they can redo Rodgers' deal with the offsets and all.
I know nobody wants that. I'm saying it may not happen tomorrow though because the Jets are going to try to do something stupid. Is all I'm saying. I'm not saying anybody's going to go along with it.
Quick note, again, because we didn't get to talk about it. Geno Smith traded to the Raiders.
Wait, I wanted to finish one more thing with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Wait. Let's finish the Steelers.
I'm going to be too long on the Steelers.
Well, the DK was the big trade, and there's a lot of things that revolve around that, and then, like you said, dominoes that fall from there. I think this now, depending on what they do at quarterback, which I still think it's Rodgers. Let's say it is. That means round 1 and 2, they could go offensive line and running back. Which it feels like that seems to be something more and more teams are going to be looking at those first couple of rounds in one order or another. And there's some good depth at both of those positions in the first 3 or 4 rounds, maybe. But it's something to keep an eye on because Pittsburgh fills some of those holes with DK at the other side. That will help the run game because it's going to open up the passing game, depending on who they get at quarterback. So I say all that because as we move forward, some of these other teams and some of these other deals they made, there's going to be some commonalities of what they're going to be looking for in the draft, I feel like. And that's going to be an interesting kind of side kind of journey to pay attention to as we get closer to draft.
Yeah, if you don't get the second round, we're going to see a lot of running backs go. I'm very confident in that.
Apologies to interrupt, Pinky, but I wanted to jump in there and say that because of what you were just about to jump into, because I feel like this next team is very much in that same boat.
Pinky.
Raiders trading for Geno Smith is very interesting. It led to some dominoes, right? Because Geno gets traded. Sam Darnold decides to go to the Seahawks. Which I think is a horrible decision for him, but not that there was a lot of other great options if he wasn't going back to Minnesota.
It sounds like that was Seattle's plan B the whole time. They offered Geno a number. Geno didn't like it, so they traded him, and they then immediately had a conversation with Sam Darnold where apparently they both liked the plan moving forward that they were going to create.
The Sam Darnold deal is a good deal for both sides. Money wise, 3 years, $100 million. It's like the Baker Mayfield deal. It's pretty common.
Makes the Giants look even more ridiculous for what they paid Daniel. How do you still have a GM job? After watching?
Technically, it's about the same because they paid for 140, 103 for 100. Like it's close. The deals are close. But again, it depends all on the guarantees and all that crap. But Geno going there is good. I think again, I still think he is one of the quarterbacks that folds under pressure.
But that's again what I'm saying. Their draft is going to be looking at offensive line and a running back to help him. That's what they're going to be looking at. Now the question I am interested in. And you said no way. I think he's still going to be a very talented tight end somewhere. Very talented. And that's do the Raiders keep or trade Mayer? Because I've heard rumblings that they're willing to possibly move on from him now. And you can get some value for him. He's young still.
I think they would be willing to trade him. The problem is, as a team, you haven't seen anything from him. He had talent coming out. That's why he was a second-round pick. He just hasn't been able to. He didn't play a lot his first year, and then he didn't really play a lot this year.
I think on film he's flashed enough for people to be like totally worth the value still. He just hasn't gotten a ton of opportunities because now you have one of the top 5 tight ends on the other side of him in Bowers. So who knows?
Your iPad is amazing. Because I love it when it does fireworks or balloons.
Yeah, I was to say you got it fireworks, bro.
Yeah, I don't know how to turn that off.
Celebrate good times. Come on.
Just enjoy it.
We'll see what happens in that situation. But again, I think they're going to be looking at line and running back, and they very well could grab Genty at 6. Raiders are 6.
Yeah, Raiders 6. We'll talk more about that as we talk more draft.
Obviously, I'm just saying things again. Common now. There's themes that were developed in free agency, I feel like. And a lot of these teams are going to be looking at the same things in the draft. And that's going to be guys get pushed up the board. Some guys going to fall because of it. Like, what's going to happen here?
Finishing up with the guys who kind of re-signed and everything. Josh Allen, 6 years,
running away with
$330 million, $250 guaranteed.
Still less per year than Dak Prescott, but more guaranteed than Deshaun Watson.
Right.
And I laughed at that because everybody still considers Deshaun Watson's deal the worst in NFL history. And we are now at a point now where deals are being made where there's more guaranteed money being assigned, but because that's part of a larger deal, it looks smarter.
Right.
Because it's not the full deal guaranteed.
Oh, look at the hearts. And that just brings back another thing. Like, again on the whole, like what happened over the weekend. Myles Garrett, man, that kind of pissed me off. And I know it pissed Rich Eisen off because he said it pissed him off.
He believed their plan.
I don't think he believed
their plan was we're going to pay you a whole lot of guaranteed money.
I think it came down to they went, you know what? I know you don't want to be here, and we don't want to trade you. And he was like, I don't care, get me out of here. And they were like, okay, well, what about if we give you $40 million a year? Okay, I'm listening. What are we doing?
How many years? Yeah, you want a couple? Okay.
Because we all know at this point where they're at, by the time they're competitive and a contender, if that is a thing, will be by the time he's way past his prime.
Yeah, but that deal also won't be bad at that point in time.
No,
if it does happen in 4 years.
Definitely not. But again, he wasted that he had this small window.
He did. But
3 to 4 years, he's going to be dominant for the next 3 to 4 years, and he's still not going to get a ring.
They really could have basically told him, like, look, here's the deal. We're not trading you. And you can believe whatever you want. You can listen to whatever you want. You can say and think whatever you want to us. But we will not and are never going to trade you. So if you want to sit out and you want to lose your bag, you go right ahead. We are good with that because look at what we're dealing with already. Not like we're going to be good. We lose you, we get a better draft. Like, they had all this ammo behind what they could have said to him. And if they really said that, and they're like, but hear us out. But, like, we're again, never going to trade you. Never. You're good with that, okay? Just make sure you understand. We're never. But we will give you a very large contract to make you the highest paid non-QB in the league. Sound good?
Wow.
And he goes,
yeah,
never play football again or get paid a whole ton of. All right, maybe there was more wiggle room in my original statement than I thought.
And again, doesn't this come back to the Browns continually doing bad business? Same thing. Deshaun Watson. He's talking to all the teams. He tells Cleveland, I don't want to go play for you. They sit and mull it over for the evening and go, well, how about if we give you $230 million guaranteed? I'm in. I like Cleveland. Let's go play. Yeah. Like, this is the same thing. Garrett's like, I want to get out. I want to go to a championship and do this. Well, what if we just give you this? Okay. Again, it's bad business all over again.
Bad. And that's the business model right now.
They're going to be terrible. My son's like, yeah, I'm a Browns fan, but I root for the Lions too.
Yeah, let's go, Junior. I love it.
So,
the conversion.
At least beginning. He's got that going for him. All right, so enough of that. I think we definitely got to talk about the team that has won free agency so far. And again, we're in the second day of free agency. So again,
before you do wins and losses, I got two teams that I feel like are doing very different things, but are very much on the same path, whether they want to believe it or not. And that's San Francisco and Dallas. San Francisco is basically like, yo, we don't got a rookie quarterback contract anymore because we're going to have to play Purdy. We got to start letting some dudes go and getting younger again. Like, that's really what it feels like. But I don't think San Francisco is a team that's going to have to rebuild. I think they're a good enough organization where they can kind of reload and still be competitive on the line, a la what the Rams did.
Half of the players they let go have missed time over the last 2 years.
I know. That's what I'm saying. They're like, they were going to be expensive. They had to get young anyway. Like, there were things
they have young guys to fill in.
But very much in the same vein as the Rams have done. I think that's what the 49ers will do. The other team, though, is Dallas. And they're not unloading, per se, in the same sense that the 49ers are. And they are going to try to just reload and not rebuild the same way the 49ers are. But Pinky, I can't remember if it was you or if it was something else I saw while I was reading some articles. I feel like it was you, but maybe not. Dallas hasn't the most they've spent in free agency, or they haven't spent over $10 million a year in free agency or something like that since the Greg Hardy signing in like 2012. Over $6 million in free agency. They haven't spent
more than $6 million in a free agent contract since 2000, like whenever they signed Greg Hardy.
2012, I think, was the stat, if I remember correctly.
I think it was 15.
13 years. 13. Okay? How can you say you are about winning if you're not spending the money you have to try and fill the holes on your team?
Well,
like what? That's absurd.
and it's out there.
Like here and there, I can understand. Maybe you're trying to sign your own guys early, so you don't have contracts coming up. You don't need to fill free agency holes. You can go through the draft. There are situations where I could see here and there that happening, but 13 years in a row.
But that's not the problem. The problem, Dallas signs their guys too late.
Well, that's a whole nother conversation that we talk about all the time. That's a whole nother conversation altogether. That's just poor business management. But to not spend any money above $6 million for 13 years in a row, you could have some years where you don't sign free agents. That would make sense, especially if you're a good team doing things the right way. You wouldn't need to spend money every year in free agency. But what 13 years? And you're going to act like they don't have holes right now? They got holes everywhere. They got holes everywhere they can fill.
Their situation,
running
of
back,
not
wide
signing
receiver,
guys,
tight end
is
might
very-
be tight end and cornerback, and let's say pass rush. They don't have holes. Everywhere else they have a hole. Even quarterback, because you don't even have a backup quarterback right now.
right?
So if that goes down again, what are you going to do? Like,
Right.
legitimately, you have holes everywhere on your team. Wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3.
But funniest
what-
thing, one of the guys on the Rich Eisen podcast, TJ Jefferson is his name. He kind of fills in quite a bit. He's a big wrestling fan, lots of cool stuff. He's a Cowboys fan. Rich Eisen has a printed out releasing, like a contract releasing him of his Dallas Cowboys fandom, ready to go. Whenever he's ready, he's like, I'm going to give it one more year.
Dude, I saw that stat that you sent, and it literally, like, yo, as crazy as it might sound to say out loud, I think it needs to be a serious conversation moving forward at all times. Jerry Jones might be the worst owner in the NFL right now.
I thought we've talked about this before.
We've
we
kind of
definitely
mentioned
have.
it in passing per se, and people haven't really taken it seriously. But like at this point, like stuff like that keeps coming up. The continuous things that are being done, the way the business is being ran as a whole, like, dude, like how do you see and hear these things and go, no, he's still a great owner. How is he
Right.
not at the bottom? Like that's
Let's do
wild.
Some quick hitters here. The
Wait,
Eagles.
what do you think about San Francisco, though? Do you agree they're kind of like the Rams? They'll just reload and keep moving?
I think the 49ers have enough young talent on their roster right now that's what they were like. We could pay. We could try to pay some of these guys if we really could, but with Brock Purdy's deal coming up, Trent Williams wanting more money, we just don't have that option. But we've had some young guys come in and played pretty good. And we've got Robert Saleh coming back, who actually plays a really good style of defense. So they feel like, again, they could get away with that because the offense will still be somewhat intact, right? So I'm not really concerned about the 49ers. And again, this was going to happen. They're in that, like the Rams, they're in that position of we're going to pay our quarterback. We've got some of the core guys still. They've got the pass rusher. They've got the left tackle. They've got some wide receivers because they drafted, Purcell, they got Ayuk, they still have Kittle, they have McCaffrey, they still have some core pieces that should be enough. Now, would you line up and say they're better than the Eagles today? Probably not. But they have a pretty damn good coach too. So I'm not overly concerned. It might not be like their Super Bowl this year, but maybe next year, right? So again, I'm not as concerned about them. I'm more concerned about the Cowboys. They're a big deal. Some teams I'm not concerned. Like the Eagles are a little concerning, although Howie Roseman always does a great job. They've got like 7 dudes that have left their defense.
Yeah, but they'll be fine. Like,
They'll
here's the
figure
deal.
it out.
No matter what happens on a defense, they've still got enough talent in the places they need to fill in around them, even if it's not great. And that offense is ridiculous. So it doesn't matter.
one Philly. I mean, they did re-sign Zach Bond, who was their linebacker that played out of his mind last year. Cheers to him getting the bag. Milton Williams, who was not even a starter, got a $100 million deal first from the Patriots, from the Panthers, and then he flipped his commitment to the Patriots. So he got signed by the Patriots, but he got for a backup D lineman, he got $26 million a year.
Yeah, you can't be mad at that, right?
Can't fault the guy for getting that money. Good for him, right? He played. He was really unstoppable in a lot of cases. Like that dude was really quick off the ball.
I mean, there's stories all the time where the backup just needed an opportunity to shine and they became a star. So get the bag and go prove yourself, young man.
So how much time we got left? Did you say 15, Robert?
15.
All right. So we got to move through a couple quick ones. A team that did a lot of great work throughout the weekend is the Washington Commanders.
Oh, man, they are going to be a beast. I'm so excited.
They did some good things.
I am really looking
again,
forward to this.
they traded for Debo. They re-signed both their tight ends, and they still have another one that they drafted last year in the second round.
Sanaa, however you say it, but yeah.
Sanaa. They traded for Laramie Tunsil, which is probably the biggest deal that they got done.
Dude, and not really had to give up a whole lot. What are we doing here, Houston?
They didn't give up much at all, man. So,
is this your winners and losers section? Is this what
no,
we're doing
I'm just
now?
talking about how good. I mean, Commanders would be one of my winners.
Okay, because Houston would be one of my losers.
What's that?
Houston would be one of my losers.
Oh,
they might be the loser.
I don't know what their plan is.
Dude,
let's talk about them next real quick. So we got Tunsil protecting Jaden Daniels. They picked up Javon Kinlaw, which they got him for half the price of Jonathan Allen. They let Jonathan Allen go. They picked up Javon Kinlaw. Kinlaw has not been amazing, but there could be some talent there.
Dan Quinn is usually able to pull a little bit more out of guys, though, so that's something to keep in mind.
They re-signed Bobby Wagner, which is a huge deal. That guy still got it, and he's a leader. You know, you need that. And of course, they re-signed both their kickers, which again, when you perform, pay the guy. The worst thing in the world is having, and again, you only know it when you don't have one. When you don't have a good punter or a good kicker, field goal kicker, you feel it.
You do.
So when you have one, keep them, right? So again,
another team that's going to be looking for weapons. Running back and offensive lineman would not be surprised if they went that route.
Right. All right. So Houston, I got no idea.
Are they just going to use every pick they have on offensive linemen and pray they can get 5 that work?
I mean,
like, what are we doing?
To be fair, Laramie Tunsil was like the most penalized. Him and Jawan Taylor were like the 2 most penalized offensive linemen in the league. So again, there's that. Obviously, they weren't great because like CJ Stroud was literally running for his life and had the yips. He couldn't complete perfectly good passes most of the season. So there was something wrong with them. But again, they traded their left tackle. They traded their left guard to the Eagles for CJ Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah, and let's think about that. If those are the 2 teams that got their offensive linemen, we could probably think maybe those are the best 2 offensive linemen they had, so they didn't keep the good parts of the offensive line. Again, it's hard not to think otherwise, right? If those are the 2 teams that want them, maybe you shouldn't be giving those guys up. Maybe those are the ones you should have kept and tried to trade the other ones, even if you didn't get as high a picks. Like, something seems very off in what Houston's trying to accomplish.
But they didn't get high picks.
Well, I know. That's what's crazy, though. That's why Do they bring back Diggs? Who knows? Nico Collins, they've got a true one, but Tank Dell's not going to be around next year. Tank Dell's out. Do they really have a great running back? Mixon is a solid guy, but he's not explosive.
He doesn't break off the runs like he did in Cincinnati anymore.
So, I mean, you got a quarterback going into his third year, and instead of adding to the team, you have taken away from the team. It's not like you have a ton of draft picks that you were just waiting to use on a crazy amount of talent. You're not picking high, so it's not like you're trading your top draft pick to get a bunch in return. Like, nothing about what they're doing makes any sense, and it's not like there's a lot of high-end free agents left on the market that they're going to be able to go out and grab. So what are they doing, Pinky?
I don't know. I like DeMeco Ryans. They did a really quick turnaround, so we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But when your Achilles heel was you couldn't protect your superstar quarterback, and now you trade two of the guys on the offensive line, like that just tells me like they're going to draft the Steelers drafted 2 linemen, 1, 2, first round, second round. Like that seems to be like that's got to be the plan at this point. Like otherwise, I don't know what they're doing. I guess
I did have one question for Pinky though, and I might be a little too early on this.
Okay.
I did see this over the weekend, and I saw we lost Javonte Williams as a Bronco.
Unfortunately, he has become Samaje Perine. He ain't
even that.
I mean, he's probably not even as good as Samaje Perine right now. He has no burst.
There's a reason he went to purgatory hell.
His vision wasn't great. What he can do is he can pass protect. He is one of the better backs in pass protection. So there's value to having him on your team. And he's got decent hands. Maybe not the smoothest routes, but he still catches the ball fairly well.
He can fill your running back position. I'm not trying to be cruel. Since that injury, he lost whatever was making him special. Like, that's just what it feels like.
And I think
so
if
can
he
he
still
run the
has
ball and
vision,
get you 2 yards in a cloud of dust? Absolutely. And is he going to hold on to the ball? Most likely. And like you said, he is great at pass protecting. So short yardage, goal line, and pass protect. He could come out of the backfield in a pinch and catch a screen. So it's not like he's a terrible football player. But when you have a need, it's surprising that that's the route you go to fill the need.
Right. He got $3 million from the Cowboys. That's a decent deal. The Broncos were going in a different direction. They were not. They said in the media that there was a possibility he could come back. He wasn't coming back. You already have him. You got, Audric Estime will work into a pass protector in time. So you've already got that.
I know it won't happen, but like realistically, if we're being serious on the list of options, Robert, the Broncos drafting a running back in the first round and the second round was higher on the options list than bringing Javonte Williams back.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Like just because of the upside of what was there in the first and second round and where Javonte is, value, contracts, skill life. It's unfortunate because had he not gotten hurt, that like the trajectory people saw him on was on a very, very high one. But at this point in time, there's just not a point of having him on the team. And it's actually even more surprising because they had such a big need that Dallas is the one that picked him up. But it's also not a big surprise because that's kind of what Dallas does.
But they didn't have that guy though.
Got it.
Because Rico Dowdle's gone. That's why I would expect first round probably O-lineman, second round probably.
Right, but again, theme based on free agency. A lot of teams are going to be looking at offensive line and running back. Like it's crazy. So don't be surprised if these running backs get pushed up the boards.
5 minutes. All right, quick hitters. Broncos. Hufanga, safety from the 49ers. Trey Greenlaw, inside linebacker. Both dudes are dogs. Both dudes are playmakers. If they're healthy, these are really good deals. And again, this is where I think the Broncos do believe in their strength and conditioning staff that we will be able to help keep them healthy.
Well, the other thing it does for the Broncos is it allows them to truly, solely, if they want to, concentrate on the offensive side of the ball in this draft. Beef up the offensive line or depth, whichever way you want to go, depending on what rounds you want to grab guys and how you want to look at that. Weapons, weapons, weapons. And they can take their shots to put guys around Bo Nix that can go out and make plays if they think. So you could use your first 4 or 5 rounds on weapons and nobody would blink an eye.
Nope. And I could see it happening.
So that's what's really interesting about what the Broncos did is, again, theme, offensive line and running back. A lot of people have them doing that before free agency. Very much so could do it after free agency. But they could also surprise some people and go tight end or wide receiver, tight end or running back in the first 4 rounds. And it seriously wouldn't be crazy. It wouldn't be crazy at all. So by adding those 2 dogs, as Pinky said, those 2 studs to an already really good defense that didn't necessarily have a lot of holes and already has a little bit of depth, if the guys that played really well last year that people weren't expecting to take as big of a step can at least play at the same level, even if they don't take another step, if they just play at the same level, that's going to be a really great defense again.
Absolutely.
So you don't have a lot of teams, at least in my opinion, outside of your top Super Bowl contending guys that can be that open in the draft to how they want to move forward after free agency hit. Because even after free agency, there's still a lot of teams that look at holes and needs. And the Broncos, their needs just happen to be the fun positions that everybody wants to talk about and draft, right? The wide
I'm excited because I'll be there.
Ends, the running backs. You know, they could go late round quarterback if they really wanted to. It would
They do.
It would
They probably
be a bit
will.
of a surprise. Well, Sean Payton kind of always takes that flyer, but I'm saying more late round quarterback if somebody happened to fall a little bit.
All right, look, 2 winners, quick hitters, Minnesota Vikings, and they literally did work on the O-line and D-line. They got Will Fries from the Colts, who's a damn good interior O-lineman.
Kelly.
They got Kelly from the Colts as well at center. And then on the defensive side, they picked up Byron Murphy. They re-signed, and they picked up big-ass Jonathan Allen.
Yeah.
From
Now,
the Commanders.
You say win. I love the moves they made, but J.J. McCarthy is in ripping, but J.J. McCarthy is really your only quarterback on the roster right now. That's a bit of a big hit in free agency to not try to grab one of these veterans or somebody to be able to back him up if that's your plan.
Again, I'm not talking about like totality of your team, just like what they infused into their team right now.
But part of free agency is filling needs, and they missed on a big one, I feel like.
Well, they're not done yet. All right. The winner of free agency was the Chicago Bears.
They definitely addressed the need.
Now, again, I still count their trades that they did. They traded for Joe Thuney from the Chiefs, which is a big deal. They traded for Jonah Jackson from the Rams, which to me is also a big deal. Interior guys, right? Let's keep them. And then they signed Drew Dahlman, who now is the second highest paid center in the league, who comes from the Falcons, who's a pretty darn good center. I listened to Mark Schlereth. Schlereth said the guy can play.
Yep.
You just don't know it because he's got 2 Pro Bowl guards next to him.
Right.
So,
All right. Caleb, final thoughts on the NFL free agency, and then Pinky, give your final thoughts.
Well, a couple things. You are right about the Bears, and I actually expect, based on them shoring up that interior, you're going to see a big thing from that offense. I do think Caleb Williams takes a step next year in the right direction. Ben Johnson is the coach. They're going to put out the ball. DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, Komet, Ballin. There's a big loser, I think. And to me, it's the biggest loser. That's the Indianapolis Colts. What are we doing? What are we doing? You had AR. You're not giving him a chance.
20
then you
seconds.
signed Daniel Jones. You've got like the worst passer QBR guys in the history of the league over the last couple years. you let go 2 interior offensive linemen that are really good. Nothing about the Colts makes sense, and I feel bad for that fan base right now. Brutal.
Yeah.
Pinky?
I'm liking what the Bears are doing. I like Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson obviously knows get an O-line, protect your quarterback, run the football. Won't be shocked if the Bears draft Ashton Genty at 10.
Ooh.
Won't be a shock.
Ooh.
All right. Switching gears, Robert.
All right. So we have a rare thing. So for...
I got one topic before you jump in.
Okay, go for
Real
it.
quick. Since we've labeled it not sports, but it's sports entertainment. That cage match last night on Raw,
Oh, yes,
Seth Rollins
that was legit.
and CM Punk was awesome. And I listened to Bubba Ray talk about it, and he talks about it, and it's exactly right. There wasn't chairs, there wasn't tables, there wasn't all this other crap. It was just 2 guys in a cage, using the cage, fighting each other, doing some wrestling moves, doing their finishing moves. The story in the ring of both guys opening the door to the cage and saying, "Walk right out, come on," and both guys staying in the ring and fighting, like showing that like that they really hate each other. And then
that
going up to the top of the cage, and then that suplex off the top. You know CM Punk had to take some ibuprofen this morning. Like, that had to hurt.
Absolutely. That was probably my favorite part of the entire match. It was great. I loved it.
Caleb?
Absolutely loved it.
It was solid. I saw room for improvement. If they're truly trying to get back to Attitude-ish era and things of that nature, they're still running it PG, where they could go to PG-13 and up the ante a little bit more with everything.
However, Caleb, will you say that it has now almost become a need to at least watch Monday Night Raw because of the things they are putting out?
We're getting closer. I told Pinky I'm back. I'm back in a low capacity. I won't say I'm all in that sense. I fast forwarded through a lot of last night. There was a lot that the Bianca Naomi thing was complete trash.
I like seeing Io Sky slap them both. I like that.
That was great. Rhea and Bianca, that was awesome.
Now again, the problem I have with last night is now 2 of your biggest matches are going to be 3-way matches.
I mean, yeah, but even still, like the Bianca, like just the way it was written for them to talk and stuff, like that was like middle school play, parents in the background with video recorders. Like it was bad. It was real bad. Not even remotely believable. Not even a little bit. And there was a lot of that, unfortunately. So we'll see what happens. I like where some of the stories are going, though. So I told Pinky I'm back, and I'll pay attention enough to be able to stay up and see what's going on. I don't hate Roman Reigns coming back and being involved at the end there, but I'm also Pinky is right in the sense that CM Punk and Seth Rollins could have cooked on their own probably, but there's it's not like there's not history between the 3. So it does make sense to kind of bring Roman back in that capacity.
And you saw the end when Paul Heyman somehow is in the ring.
But Paul Heyman's always doing that behind Roman's back. Like, that's nothing new. So
consoling CM Punk. And then Roman Reigns is like, looks at it, smiles, shakes his head, and then he gets in the ring and busts CM Punk open. Like, so that adds more layers. But that was definitely the culmination of the night. Like, without a doubt, with the cage hanging high, like we were like the rest of the Raw, like no matter how good it was, we were still waiting for the cage match. Like,
I will say I continue to be befuddled by what you guys see in Gunther. I think
I mean, I just like him because he's German, so I just got to represent my dude.
No, I don't. You like him because he's German. That's the only reason you like him, Robert. That's it. That is literally it. If Jey Uso doesn't beat him, they are wasting a crazy good potential in Jey Uso.
Sure.
I mean, Gunther,
I will agree with that, absolutely.
But Jey Uso's going to win that match because of the story and everything. And again, he's got so much hype right now. His entrance every Raw is like literally 6 minutes of just people just like Pat McAfee up on the table and going crazy. So they're definitely gonna he's gonna win. I like Gunther because Gunther is one of the best heels that they have, and it's not just
what you see. I don't like. To me, he's not even a heel. He's just a dick. Like, there's a difference. He's not a bad guy. He's not.
He's German. Hey, he's German.
Just a dick.
He's not a dick. He's German.
But I like the fact that he's always
a stout motherfucker. Leave him alone.
He's all about business. He's all about wins and championships and wrestling. He's a great wrestler in the ring. I don't think you could deny that. He is a good wrestler in the ring. If you don't like his character, or you don't like his style, that's one thing. The dude can wrestle. Okay?
So I'm not going to say he doesn't have fundamentals, right? But that's part of the reason why I don't like him is he could go back to the 80s and fit right in. Like, he means nothing to me in this. And him trying to be the ring's gonna allow and speak like he's got some kind of ring presence, like he doesn't.
I think you'll like this. He is the Bob Backlund of this era. I didn't find anything interesting about Bob Backlund at all.
Okay.
He was a good wrestler. He always performed great matches. He always made people look good. He would win a lot. There's nothing special about that guy. I see Gunther in a similar light, but I like him because he is the bad guy. And right now, I think one of the things that WWE doesn't have enough of is bad guys. They just don't.
I mean, they could play up heels a little bit more.
I get Gunther. Logan Paul's the best heel in the game right now.
Heck yeah, he is. He's
until Monday Night Raw.
I mean,
all right.
Yeah, I mean they played that up.
Dude, come on now. If John Cena doesn't come out on that Raw and instantly showcase his heel status,
I'm somewhat nervous about. He's on Raw for like the next 3 weeks.
All overseas too. Figure that out.
Because he's filming in Turkey.
I know.
So he could come do the Monday Night Raw and head back to Turkey and keep filming.
It fits real quickly and easily into the schedule. I get it. So there you go. Monday Night Raw.
But it was fun. I enjoyed it. And again, at the end of the day, my daughter was with me. My other daughter was watching. Her and her boyfriend were watching with me too. It was fun and exciting, and I think that's what I'm enjoying a lot about wrestling right now. Is just that it's allowing me to spend time with my youngest, and she loves it, and she cheers and she boos and she just gets into it. We played the new WWE 2K25. She hates that I'm really good at it now. So
you do need to make sure you're paying attention. They were giving some freebies out last night during the show, so make sure you get some of that. You gotta tell me. You gotta send me messages, Robert. You gotta let me know. I did not see any of that. It, man. So all right.
No, I wasn't live.
He's
so
not
I didn't
watching
get
it live,
that.
so they don't show the same stuff.
So I'll make sure I grab some of the codes for you to get, so you're getting a lot of the free stuff then.
Thank you, my man.
But
moving on. That is enough WWE. We are good to move forward. It is WrestleMania season, so we're probably going to be talking about it somewhat regularly. Okay? Sorry.
Now that we actually have a very rare occurrence on this podcast that somehow
the planets aligned.
It happened in our universe this year, so it worked for Caleb. He finally got to go see a movie in theaters and got to see Captain America Brave New World.
I am all caught up on the Marvel universe.
I like, man, this is like one of my favorite popcorn buckets. This is a legit popcorn bucket. And I love that movie. I mean, it was a solid like B- of a Marvel movie as a whole, but it was a solid Incredible 2 sequel.
Solid 7, right?
I mean, 7.5. I gave it a 7.5 out of 10 because for what a lot of people don't give this movie credit for that I see is it has moved the Marvel universe forward in more ways than people will say. Because now that Eternals has become more relevant than ever, and with the Fantastic Four coming here in July, the Celestials have a major part to play, along with some of the other stories that have been told in this. So this movie, while it is a 7.5, it has set up a lot of other stories to push us into the next chapter.
I walked out saying two things to my wife, and I was pleasantly surprised with this movie because everything I was hearing seemed to be people were not happy with it. I don't know why. I really don't, because the two things I walked away from were, one, that darker tone they went with to start the movie. Had they continued that a little bit more throughout all the way, that would have been an easy 8 and maybe even 9 if the leader had been done a little bit better to seem a little bit more in control and powerful. I think he was not written as strongly as he could have been. And that's part of the reason I think the overall movie isn't as highly rated. The other thing I walked away with was what Robert just said. I thought, me personally, I don't think you could have tied up all the loose ends they had going on with the original Hulk movie that they had to make canon because of a couple things, the Eternals movie, and a few other loose ends that they had. The way they tied all those up and into this movie in a neat bow, for the most part, I thought was really well done, or at least as well done as you could have hoped for, to put all of those in and be able to move forward from here. So I actually kind of think it's like an 8. I walked away really enjoying it and really liked it. Again, I think if they continued that dark tone a little bit more, which a lot of that would have come from the way the leader was written and his character, I think it could have easily made it an 8.5 or a 9 and really pumped the movie up, especially the ending, even more. So
do you know what I was disappointed with? I was really disappointed that Liv Tyler didn't show up in the Cherry Blossoms to talk to her dad and calm him down.
So I wasn't, only because I'm not a big fan of fan service just to fan service, and I feel like that very much would have been that, because it would have been like what she did in that original Hulk with Ed Norton.
But I find that to be more realistic of her calming the Red Hulk down than Sam calming him down.
Okay, like I could.
Because again, they established that previously with Scarlett Johansson and
right, but how
Mark
would she,
Ruffalo.
I think again that fan service to fan service, because how would have she been there? Like that all happened very quickly. She wasn't talking to him, so it's not like she sees him as the Hulk and then immediately can just show up there to try and calm her dad down.
But they have it on the news that he was in a press conference and then he turns into the Red Hulk. So at least there's the alert. Now, how she gets there in a quick manner, that I don't know.
Because if I'm not mistaken, I mean, because this is been one of the last, or one of the most recent times she's ever been brought up. She's still in New York, so for her to get to DC in a quick manner like that, there's still a lot of time to get from there to here. So although
they didn't mention that in this movie, though.
But
they didn't mention she was in New York.
But she's still a professor, so she's still at where
NYU, or at least where
the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk, ended.
Yeah.
Previously, that there hasn't been any other telling. So I would distinguish that she's still in New York doing her job, and that since she had cut off all ties,
or she could have been doing a lecture in Washington D.C. for whatever reason.
I mean, you could also approach it that way, Pinky.
Okay, fine, Pinky. You miserable mother.
Hey, he's got a point. He has a point.
I'm just saying,
if you're
standing there,
throw a MacGuffin there.
Her standing there in front of him.
That whole scene could have been written a little bit more, but I'm okay with her not being a part of it. So there's other things maybe they could have done, but I get what you're saying. I at least understand where you're coming from.
That was like the moment for me. When he calmed down, I was just like, no, he would have literally killed Sam.
See, to me, that showed that he had really tried to change, though. Like, he really was trying to be a different dude, and that's what they needed to show that.
But this was his first time that he'd ever transformed.
You're right, Pinky. Again, I don't agree with you, but I totally understand where you're coming from, and I wouldn't have liked it, but I get it.
It took the original Hulk years to learn how to control himself.
Yeah, but you got to remember, this is a general who studied that, knew all of those things. So there is
And
some
tested on him.
differences. I'm not saying that makes it different or not, but there is some differences.
But I still agree. Good
I'm
movie.
more interested to hear your guys' take, Robert. My feelings on the leader, because we know my comic book is surface level, right? Like, I'm not deep lore, and I try to learn as much as I can. I'm not a big knowledgeable person on the leader. I understand who he is, but as far as his comic book lore, I don't really know how powerful he is or how true of a villain he is for the MCU. Is my feeling, my take on what they did with him accurate, or am I off here?
So they could have definitely developed him a lot more. And my biggest, I can't say, my biggest issue with the movie or with the leader as a whole is when you get to the end credit scene, there's no real understanding of what's happening with that because of unless you're really following the MCU news right now, the entire story has been altered. We're getting a different setting of it's no longer Kang. So it's not like who's coming or anything like that. It is, we're getting a very wide range of a Marvel universe that's coming. So this was, in my opinion, for the leader, a big letdown because it didn't fully encompass his power to what he's able to tell outside of these quick little dominoes that we got from this story, which ultimately, again, that we just discussed, Caleb, is setting up a wider universe and furthering the Marvel story rather than focusing on this minute section of this.
Robert, wouldn't you agree that this has been one of Marvel's one of the things they haven't been great at is
Villains.
Actually being able to tell the villain's story very well?
Consistently, yes. But that is one thing, and outside of a lot of the other character arcs that they ruined on the Avengers side of it, that is what made Infinity War and Endgame so well, is they told it from Thanos' side.
Well, Infinity War is a Thanos movie.
Yeah, that was good.
And that's why that worked so well. But a lot of the other villain stories, like you said, they're not effective because they're used as a one-off. When a lot of these villains actually have well-rooted stories to where they come back
continuously appearing within.
Obadiah Stane is one of them, and to kill Jeff Bridges off as one of the greatest Iron Man villains was a tragedy.
But Robert, let me throw this at you real quick, just because we have Caleb here with us. Besides Thanos, who is the greatest Marvel villain
that's been filmed?
That's canon. I already know it right off the bat.
I would honestly argue it'd be Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin, or it'd be William
Dafoe's
Green Goblin.
Bingo. It's Kingpin.
My two.
The Kingpin is besides Thanos, is the best villain in the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
Period.
Because ultimately, a lot of Thor's villains didn't. They were one-offs. The second one was terrible.
Hela's pretty good.
Hela was alright, but she again only served her purpose because that furthered Ragnarok to bring us to where Thor needed to be for the Infinity War timeline.
Right.
Which again ultimately happened because Thanos was the main character overall.
All right, so going back to Captain America, then the end credit scene that you talked about is basically him opening up the multiverse.
So So in a sense, because where we're headed now is where really what happens with Galactus in Fantastic Four, because that will set us up for where the Doomsday story comes in. Which
Question.
There were
Sorry,
several...
I'm trying to. I want to keep hearing you talk, but I want to make sure I've got my details correct. Because again, I want to learn as much. I love it, but I don't know as much as I want to know. The Galactus is a
A world eater.
A being that eats worlds.
Right, but what is he called?
He's a celestial.
Celestial, thank you. Sorry. Galactus is a celestial. The guy that got killed by the Eternals and wasn't allowed to be born was a celestial.
Yes. And
do we know, or does his name even matter?
It was Tiamat, if I'm not.
I feel like that's right, but does it matter? And I asked that to say, who is the celestial that they were talking to? Was that Galactus?
So no, in the no, it was Tiamat who they were talking to, but he was the one that was implanted in Earth.
Right. Who's the one that was giving them all their instructions? Who is the leader celestial that was giving them all their instructions?
It wasn't Galactus, it was somebody different. Hang on.
I mean, I think I'm throwing it out there.
The judge.
Galactus is going to win, and Fantastic Four is going to end up in Universe 616.
So yeah, Arishem the judge was the one giving the commands to bring him. He's working on behalf of Galactus.
Oh, okay. So Galactus is like the biggest, baddest celestial.
Yes.
And these guys are kind of under him, working for him in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What was Peter Quill and his dad?
That's a different.
I thought they were celestials.
I think his dad's a celestial. I thought
he's a half celestial because his dad was a planet.
Right, his dad was a celestial, which made Peter able to
Ego was a
tap
celestial being, but he wasn't like one of the
celestials. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
Different.
Sorry, I needed to kind of get all that in order as you continue to make sure I understand where we're going.
Yeah. So that is, and with bringing in Silver Surfer, because he is the basically the executioner.
She is. I mean, she is going to be the executioner.
Yes.
That was a sore spot for Robert. I don't know why you had to do
that. She's a great actress. She was.
You just didn't want that version. I get that as an old school. But still, continue. Yeah. My apologies.
No, you're fine. Again, I am still absolutely excited for Fantastic Four. I really do believe that we are actually going to get a faithful adaptation that's not going to be.
I love that it's based in the 60s.
I'm excited because I think, like, again, I heard a lot of people crapping all over Captain America, and I really liked it. So I feel like they're starting to pick back up and move in a good direction again with their movies, which is what they need to do. So I'm excited for the future.
Which actually, and I mentioned this to Pinky this morning on our walk for work, is, and Caleb, I don't know if you got a trailer with this in your showing, but trying to keep up with a lot of the movies and things, the production company A24, the independent film company that did Everything Everywhere All at Once and a lot of some of the other crazy movies, the new Thunderbolts trailer that was released this week was compared to that. And there was if the meme with Martin Scorsese, that's pure cinema with him, they were mimicking that, and that was even the title of this Thunderbolts trailer. And I have a feeling that this is going to be a Guardians of the Galaxy situation where it's getting a lot of negative critique in the beginning, but it's just going to be an absolute monster of a film.
When's that come out?
It comes out in May.
That one will be interesting because it's definitely, they're definitely trying to force characters that the overall. No, listen to me, Pinky. Shut up and listen. Just wait. Just shut up and listen, okay? Instead of just being negative and telling everybody no right away, just wait. Easy, okay? Just wait. I think as a whole, the fandom, the general public, if you will, the bandwagon fans who are really just about the MCU and not about the comics, could give a shit less about maybe all of them, if not at least most of them. But I agree with Robert. If the film is done right, all of a sudden everybody's going to really like these characters and want to see more of them. I don't think anybody gives a shit about Ghost in the general public. I don't think anybody cares about seeing that character come back.
I would
after
agree with
Ant-Man and
that.
Wasp.
I would agree with Ghost, yes.
And I mean, not that if you just watch the promotional features, Taskmaster is just going to bite the dust very early on.
Those are going to be my next two. I mean, honestly, Black Widow's sister, that nobody really liked the Black Widow movie. I don't know if they didn't necessarily like the TV show that she was a part of.
Hawkeye's awesome, man.
Pinky, again, you guys are hardcore. The general public, the bandwagon fans, didn't like either one of those entries into the MCU.
They didn't. Hold on.
They really didn't.
Hold on. They did not like the entries. They did like her character. They liked the characters, but the movies, the titles weren't correct.
I don't know if Black Widow isn't there, do they care so much about her? And then Taskmaster as a whole was done so terribly in that movie. I don't think people even realize who or what that character really is. So if it came back or not, they couldn't care either.
I agree with the Taskmaster, but
absolutely agree with that.
So that's why this movie's going to be interesting. Is if it's
people
a great
love
movie,
Florence
it means they
Pugh's
brought
character.
these characters back to people caring when they didn't think they ever would again, which would be a really good thing going forward.
Now, the best part about outside of the main characters that we are getting, my favorite part of this is going to more than likely be Sentry, the main villain, who's being played by the actor who was Bob in Top Gun Maverick, who's a rinky-dink dude. He's like me. So and he plays great characters as a whole anyway, and a lot of the films that he's in. So I am all in for Sentry to be a part of this because his power that's been shown is excellent.
Cool. Love it. With that being said, Robert, I apologize. This was fun, and you make sure we get this every week. And we'll make sure Pinky doesn't eat up as much time with wrestling on you all the time. God, Pinky. But with that said, Robert, give us your final thoughts, good sir.
Final thought is two things. Number one is the Invincible finale is happening this coming Thursday. So Pinky, make sure you are up to date. This season has been tremendous.
I will finish before Tuesday.
For furthering the story, Daredevil is starting off with a bang. If you have not, I know Caleb, we talked about it very briefly.
I'm gonna have to watch it because I have to know everything in the MCU. But again, we'll see. Maybe it'll change my mind. Maybe it'll
start off with a bang, and then last but not least, we are a little over a month away from the Andor season 2 launch, and I am jonesing for this. I cannot wait. That's it. And I'm watching the F1 races this weekend, so I will be talking about that next week on the podcast.
Let's go, Lewis Hamilton.
I will be able to watch and check in on some of that too.
So good. I'll be building my own personal Lego AMG Mercedes F1 racer. So I'll have that to show next week.
Interesting.
So we'll have a story with that as we discuss next week to start us off. But that's all. That's my final thoughts. So,
Pinky,
gentlemen.
final thoughts.
Final thoughts, and I'll continue to say we are on the road to WrestleMania. We've got 3 Raws coming up. They are all overseas. They all come on at like 3 or 4 p.m. So I'll be watching them on replay, which is great. On Netflix, when you watch on replay, there's no ads.
True.
So there you go.
Look, this time of year, if you're a sports fan or a movie fan, a nerd fan, whatever you want to call it, is usually really, really good. Really good, okay? NFL free agency, right? The draft is coming up. NBA basketball is starting to move into the end of the season in playoff mode and things of that.
20 games left.
Here's the deal, though. Nothing, in my mind, nothing in all of sports beats the NCAA tournament. March Madness is at the top, and it starts now. This is championship week. Selection Sunday is Sunday. We move directly into the first round of the tournament. Like, let's go. On that
Party
note,
on!
ladies and gentlemen,
Let's go!
do not ever miss an opportunity to take advantage of those special moments you have with your family, loved one, friends, inner circle. Cherish them as much as you can. Always take advantage of them. If it means you're not listening to us, we're good with that because we live by it, okay? And anybody that likes, follows, subscribes, shares, tweets, retweets, whatever, if you're a part of this in any way, we cannot thank you enough. We appreciate it. Till next week, we're out. Peace.